Hey everybody, so I thought I had a video made for 1.4 from the previous year, and I did not. I think I may have covered this in class because it is a very short section, so this will be quick, I hope, unless I start to ramble like I am right now. So we're talking about variables and data, and this is fairly straightforward. So they can be anything, and any variable can be created to represent any type of thing that you may want to include. So some examples might be height, weight, number of siblings, sex, marital status, and eye color. And all of those are different variables. What you want to note, though, is that the first three give us numerical information, and that's what we call quantitative. So anytime you have numerical information, we typically refer to that as quantitative values. The last three are non-numerical information, and those are what we call qualitative variables or qualitative values, or in some cases, you may hear some statisticians refer to them as categorical. Quantitative variables, so that's numeric, can be classified as either discrete or continuous. A discrete variable, it has values that can be listed even though that list may continue indefinitely. So if you started with the number 1 and you counted up and you just never stopped, that is a discrete variable because you are counting that list even though it does go on forever. And it does hold too if there's a finite number of values. So if we just have a set of 10 and they're numbered 1 through 10, those are also discrete values. A continuous variable is one that it forms an interval. So if we're measuring something, the height of a person cannot be infinite. The height of a typical person is going to be somewhere between, probably, we'll go on a low end to 4 feet up to, say, 7.5 feet tall. No, you're not going to really have people that are 12 feet tall. We're not going to see that. So this is what we would call a continuous variable. It has a range or a spectrum of values, but it has a terminal point on either end. So here are some definitions. You have variable. It's a characteristic that varies from one person or thing to another. Take, for example, if we were in person, height would be one that would be pretty obvious amongst all of us. You guys would typically be much shorter than me, and that characteristic varies between me and each one of you in this class. Qualitative variable, it's non-numeric. A quantitative is numeric. Discrete, the values can be listed. And a continuous, it has values that are on an interval of numbers. So maybe if you think about the increments between 1 inch and 2 inch on a ruler or a tape measure, that is a continuous variable because we have 1 1/8, we have 1 1/4, we have 1.5 inches, and so on. So those are continuous variables. Data would be the value of a variable. So qualitative data is the value of a qualitative variable. Quantitative data is the value of a quantitative variable. And continuous data are values of a continuous variable. So here we're looking at an example. It says at noon on April 21st, 2014, about 35,671 men and women set out to run 26.2 miles from rural Hopkinton to Boston. This was the 118th Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon provides examples of different types of variables and data which are compiled by the Boston Athletic Association and others. The classification of each entrant as either male or female illustrates the simplest type of variable. So what types of value or data are represented by the following values? Gender. So if we think about gender, you're either male or female. In this case, we're just going to assume binary gender. Okay, so it's either male or female. And when we talk about this, it is a qualitative variable because it is non-numeric. It's M or F, and that's it. Place of finish. So if you think about that, it is numeric, so it's quantitative. And we can also further simplify that or categorize it. So it's quantitative. not only is it quantitative, but now let's determine whether or not it is discrete or continuous. Now, in terms of finishing in a position, there's 3,500 or 35,671 men and women running, so they could finish anywhere, we'll say, from first to 35,671. That is a range of values. However, we can count that set, and there's no in between. There's no position between first and second place. There's no position between second and third place. So not only is this quantitative, it is also discrete. And then finally, we want to know about finishing time. So finishing time is another example of a quantitative value because it is numeric. But time does have an extra aspect to it where there's subsets of minutes, so we're talking about seconds in that case. There's subsets of hours, which would be the minutes themselves. So between 1 minute, or let's say 1 hour and 30 minutes and 1 hour and 31 minutes, there's 1 hour and 30 minutes and 12 seconds. There's 1 hour and 30 minutes and 14 seconds. So there's a range between 1 hour and 30 minutes and 1 hour and 31 minutes. So this goes from a discrete value, because we really can't count all the different increments of time, to a continuous variable. Example 2, you have 4 blood types, A, B, AB, or O. So what kind of data do you receive when you are told your blood type? Is it quantitative or qualitative? Well, because our blood types are not numeric values, this is qualitative. Example 3, the U.S. Census Bureau collects data on household size and publishes the information in current population reports. What kind of data is represented by the number of people in your household? Again, this one, since it's numeric values, it is quantitative. And because we are counting individuals, there can't be a partial person in the house. It's strictly whole numbers. We can count them. It's finite. This would be a discrete variable. And actually, I think we're coming up on our last example. Yep. I told you to be quick. The Information Please Almanac lists the world's highest waterfalls. The list shows Angel Falls in Venezuela at 3,281 feet, or more than twice as high as Ribbon Falls in Yosemite, California, which is 1,612 feet. What kind of data are these heights? So again, it's numeric because we're talking about feet, so it's quantitative. And are we talking about a range of values, or are we talking about countable values? Well, since we're talking about height, there is a range to height. So this is what we would consider to be a continuous variable. We're not counting the waterfalls. We're not counting their height. We're measuring their height. So that makes it a continuous variable. That is the end of this set of notes. I told you this was quick. There's your homework problems. Again, keep in mind these are due next Friday. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and I'll be talking to you soon.